This anime begins by showing Ryota Sakamoto, an unemployed 22-year-old man and also an elite Japanese player of BTOOOM, a massively multiplayer online game which sold almost 3 million copies worldwide, with his team ranked as 10th in the world. Ryota always spends his time all day at home by playing the game, which often triggers a fight between Ryota and his mother, because she wants Ryota to find a job. But Ryota harshly stated that he was pursuing a job at the video game company. One day, after Ryota visited a convenience store to revoke a job application that his mother turned in for him, Ryota is met by two men, at which point his memory dissolves. The scene then changes and shows a group of people listening to the explanation of a man named Jemu Shusaisha from a computer screen. Jemu explains that they will play the game BTOOOM in real life on a deserted island. The rules of the game are very simple. They only have to collect 8 IC chips embedded in other players' hands, which means that players must kill each other in order to survive and get out from the island safely. Not only that, the chip also functions as a sensor and tracking device that will warn players if there are other players who are close enough to them, so they could try to get the player's chip. As in the BTOOOM game, the participants will also be provided with 2 types of bombs, or BIM in this series: Cracker BIM, a simple bomb that explodes on impact, and Timer BIM, a bomb that counts down from 10 seconds until it detonates. Ryota tried to oppose all of it because the game is considered too dangerous in real life, but 2 men immediately stopped him and immobilized him with a stun gun. Not long after, Ryota awakens in a parachute harness on a tropical island, only equipped with his bag containing a few necessities, a pouch full of countdown bomb-like weapons, called BIMs, and a strange bead-like chip embedded on his left hand. At night on the beach, Ryota is pursued by a man named Yoshiaki Imagawa, who attacks him with Cracker BIMs. Failing to negotiate with Yoshiaki, Ryota is forced to evade behind the bushes, realizing that he is forced to play BTOOOM for real. When Yoshiaki corners him near a cliff, Ryota then sets a trap by leaving a Timer BIM on the cliff and jumping into the ocean, which kills Yoshiaki. The next day, when Ryota stumbles through the jungle near a river, he sees a beautiful girl named Himiko who is refreshing herself at the river. Ryota attempts to inquire Himiko about her case full of food, but she runs away in the bushes after seeing Ryota. It was as if the girl had a painful past towards men, so Himiko immediately rushed to run away from Ryota. When Ryota tries to locate her, he instead stumbles upon a man named Kiyoshi Tera in the bushes. Kiyoshi explains that he was also approached by 2 men, after which he woke up on a cargo plane with a small crowd of people, who are all informed by Jemu on screen about their participation in a death game on the tropical island. After they all learn that the objective of completing the game is to collect IC chips from 8 other participants, the plane finally reached the island and the participants were thrown out with parachutes. Ryota realizes that Tyrannos Japan, the group who created BTOOOM, was most likely responsible for this deadly game. As Ryota and Kiyoshi decide to team up to improve their odds, they notice another plane dropping food supplies onto the island. When Ryota races after a food supply, a woman reaches it first, only for her to be killed by a trap set by a man named Oda Nobutaka, who takes the food supplies and IC chip from the woman and leaves. Ryota and Kiyoshi decide to pursue another parachute and take the food supplies because they would not be able to defend themselves if their strength is low. Upon reaching another parachute, Ryota and Kiyoshi discover a 14-year-old boy named Kusuke Kira, covered in blood, who appears to have killed another man after the food supply. Ryota decides to retreat after failing to negotiate with Kusuke. As Kusuke chases after Ryota and Kiyoshi with the intent to kill, Ryota decides to fight in order to protect Kiyoshi. Ryota and Kusuke soon recognize each other as BTOOOM players and engage. After Kusuke taunts and attacks him, Ryota hits his head against a rock, which causes a personality shift where he perceives reality as being the game world. Ryota defeats Kusuke by hiding his movements with advanced sonar cancelling. Although Ryota cannot bring himself to kill Kusuke, Ryota binds him to a tree, taking his food supply and BIMs and give him a snack. When Ryota leaves, Kusuke is thrilled to learn Ryota is actually the top-ranked Japanese player of BTOOOM. After getting food supply from Kusuke, Ryota and Kiyoshi eating the food near a river, where the corpse of a man without pants washes downstream, leaving Ryota and Kiyoshi to speculate. Ryota, who is suspecting that an enemy may be lurking upstream, goes to investigate and discovers Himiko waiting atop a cliff. She draws him out into the open by throwing a blazing gas BIM into the forest. Although Ryota attempts to reason with her, Himiko seems furious and attacks him with a cracker BIM, prompting Ryota to charge at her. Himiko uses her stun gun to defend herself, but Ryota causes her to stun herself and land on top of him. Ryota is tempted to grope Himiko while she is unconscious, but he assumed that Himiko might have been harassed before by the man she killed, which explains why Himiko looked so furious and scared at the same time. Soon after that, Himiko finally awakens in Ryota's arms and, upon the fear of being violated again, she activates a timer BIM hidden in her pocket, but Ryota manages to deactivate it and reassure the girl that he won't hurt her. Ryota then took Himiko to the campsite, where Kiyoshi offers her food. Himiko explains to Ryota and Kiyoshi that everyone on the island had been picked by someone they knew to disappear. In a flashback, Himiko and her friends are invited by an upperclassman named Yoshioka and his 3 other band members. When Himiko shows up late, she discovers her friends were beaten and raped by Yoshioka and his band members. They attempt to rape Himiko, but she escapes and alerts the authorities. However, her friends, especially a girl named Miho, had to relocate due to trauma. Himiko knows that her friends chose her to disappear for being betrayed. When learning about it, Kiyoshi deduces that a real estate customer might have chosen him due to an argument, and Ryota realizes that maybe his own mother had chosen him to disappear for defying her. On the other hand, back in the mainland, it is revealed that Tyrannos Japan, the group who created BTOOOM, is monitoring the events on the island, especially with a special interest in Ryota. Apparently, the company is sending letters to everyone asking them to write down the name of the person they mostly hate and want to get rid of, which means that the participants in the game BTOOOM in real life are outcasts whose existence is no longer wanted by those closest to them. Ryota had no idea that his mother wants to get rid of him by sending him to a desert island to play a deadly game. Not long after, the group is attacked by a pack of Komodo dragons and Himiko passes out. After a Komodo dragon bites Kiyoshi's leg, Ryota manages to activate one of his cracker BIMs to scare it off. While Ryota carries Himiko on his back, Kiyoshi carries all the food supplies and BIMs, lamenting that he is being punished by being put on the island for being a monster at his job, but a Komodo dragon appears and causes the two to get separated. They are followed by more Komodo dragons to an abandoned communications tower near the sea. Kiyoshi tries to hold off the Komodo dragons using BIMs, but not to much effect. After Himiko later regains consciousness, she still shows trauma after Ryota just touches her on the shoulder. Because Kiyoshi's leg becomes infected, Ryota has Himiko hold Kiyoshi down to disinfect it. As they are suddenly discovered by another participant's sonar, Ryota decides to be a decoy to draw the assailant away from his friends. In the forest, Ryota is attacked by a male participant named Masashi Miyamoto. Ryota tries to reason with Masashi, saying that the entire scenario was set up by Tyrannos Japan to iron out bugs in BTOOOM, as there may be a loophole allowing everyone to survive. Ryota returns unharmed and learns that Himiko has been kidnapped. Ryota finds Himiko's phone, and realizing she may be the same Himiko whom he knew in the game, judging from her cosplay wallpaper. In the past, Ryota and Himiko got married in the BTOOOM world, but Himiko did not want to meet him in the real world just yet. Meanwhile, at another abandoned building, Masashi and his partner, a man named Soichi Natsum, tie Himiko down on a bed and proceed to torture her a bit. Ryota, leaving Kiyoshi behind, uses his sonar to signal and locate Himiko, prompting Masashi and Tsuchi to search for him. After confirming that Masashi and Soichi had left, Ryota sneaked into the building and saved Himiko. While untying her, Ryota questions if she was the Himiko he once played with in BTOOOM, but she denies this. When the two men returned, Ryota and Himiko attempted to fight them using the BIMs. Long story short, Ryota managed to kill Masashi and Soichi with the help of Himiko. At the same time, in an unknown location, a large number of Tyrannos Japan executives view Ryota's victory over Masashi and Soichi. After defeating Masashi and Soichi, Ryota and Himiko take refuge in yet another abandoned building at night. Ryota explains that he views the game world more as reality, especially with his relationship with the Himiko he knew in BTOOOM. Hence his reason for saving her from Masashi. Himiko silently breaks into tears, not expecting to meet Ryota in the real world and afraid of revealing her true identity as the Himiko in the game world due to her previous traumatic experiences. Himiko wakes up at the middle of the night and screams upon the sight of a ghost. Ryota investigates and discovers a seemingly crazed woman living nearby. Ryota takes Himiko with him to calm down the woman, who's revealed to be Shiki Murasaki, a survivor from a previous iteration of the BTOOOM death game. Shiki Murasaki was a nurse at an understaffed hospital, working with a male doctor named Masahito Date, who blamed her for his medical malpractice. As they were both chosen to participate in the death game, Masahito blasts off her left arm after obtaining 6 IC chips and takes her IC chip in Betrayal to leave the island with helicopter. It is revealed that Masahito was sent back to the island to treat Kiyoshi's wounds. Ryota and Himiko return to Kiyoshi, who has his wounds treated by Masahito, who tricks them all into gaining their trust, discreetly intending to betray them and take their IC chips later on. Masahito mentions that more food supplies will arrive at noon the next day, and he suggests that a serum is needed to heal Kiyoshi's wounds. Ryota and Himiko bring Masahito to Shiki's house to retrieve the medicine. As the three split up, Masahito finds some expired medicine and puts them in his case, which he entrusts to Ryota, who has a strange feeling about this. Shortly afterwards, Himiko comes running back and shouts at Ryota to drop the case, because Masahito discreetly placed a bomb inside the case, which soon detonates. After Ryota is seen killed, Himiko loses the will to fight, but Shiki saves her and wounds Masahito with a sickle. Himiko and Shiki realize that Masahito planted traps in the surrounding area. Masahito throws one of Ryota's cracker BIM at Himiko, but it fails to detonate. It is revealed that Ryota has survived, in that he managed to get rid of the case before it exploded 5 minutes earlier. Masahito runs from Ryota to lure him into another trap and activates the bomb, not knowing that Ryota had moved the bomb to another location, which explodes and injures Masahito. Ryota and Himiko hesitate to finish Masahito off until Shiki appears and eager to kill him. But, at the last moment, Shiki alters the path of the blade next to him, saying she will never forgive him. While Himiko takes an outdoor shower, Ryota wonders to her why Shiki spared Masahito. Afterwards, Ryota and Himiko ascertain that the 3 corpses of the participants have their IC chips removed. As the two head back to their place, Ryota realizes that Kiyoshi would be the only one who knew about the 3 corpses. When Ryota begins climbing the ladder, he hears a homing BIM approaching and figures out that Kiyoshi has turned against them. Kiyoshi, who is having hallucinations of his son and his wife waiting for his return, targets Ryota from the forest with his homing BIM. Ryota dodges the bomb, only to be targeted by another, injuring his leg while he blames himself for Kiyoshi's ordeal. Supported by Himiko, they are able to avoid more homing BIMs, in which Kiyoshi panics and flees. When Ryota and Himiko go after him, Ryota tries to apologize for his actions. Kiyoshi, feeling sorry for betraying them, decides to commit suicide with his last bombs when he becomes surrounded by the Komodo dragons as a way to atone for his sins. As Ryota mourns for him, Himiko takes all the IC chips off of Kiyoshi and they return to their hideout. There, Himiko asks Ryota to kill her so that he can leave the island, but he refuses and says he won't kill her or leave her. Ryota then finally recognizes Himiko as the person he knew from BTOOOM, and they both have an intimate exchange, but Ryota stops when he senses her fear. Ryota promises to date her for real when they return home. Elsewhere, several employees from Tyrannos Japan leave for the island when it is said there is mechanical problems on the island. A man named Tsuniki Ida, one of the employees, silently apologizes to Ryota, saying that it was the best he could do, perhaps a sign that he did something to help Ryota.